Domestic violence isn't a woman's issue. It's a man's issue. What do you think when I say that? I'm wondering because it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and something I've been talking about with other members of the support community. Until last week, when I heard Sir Patrick Stewart on Mark Maron's podcast say the very same words. Now, Patrick Stewart is a very interesting man. You may know him as Captain Picard from TV Star Trek, or Professor Xavier from X-Men, but his iconic status as a fantastic Shakespearean TV and film actor is something we all know about. What you may not know is that Patrick Stewart comes from an abusive household. His father is what Sir Patrick would describe as a weekend drunk. And on good nights, when he came home from the bar, he was jovial and garrulous and charismatic. And on bad nights, he would hit their mother. Now, Patrick Stewart's father never hit him or his brother, but just witnessing those acts of violence is trauma enough. And thankfully, Sir Patrick did not carry on the legacy of spousal abuse. In fact, he did the opposite, and as he grew up, he began working with support networks in the UK that provide assistance to women who have been in abusive situations. And this is exactly what you want to see. A man going the opposite direction. And where the story gets even more interesting is later in his life, Sir Patrick found out that his father wasn't abusive because he was some monster who was born that way. He was abusive because of the things he had seen in the war. His father suffered from what they called at the time shell shock, and what we now know as PTSD. He was a paratrooper, so he dropped into combat 4 times. And by dropping into combat, it means he jumped out of a plane with a parachute into live gunfire and dogfighting. The things he saw were enough to trouble any man for the rest of his life, and in an era with no support networks and no counseling, he repressed those emotions with drink, and when they came out, they were directed towards his wife in an angry and abusive manner. And instead of villainizing his father for his actions, Patrick Stewart began working with other men who had come back from the war, traumatized by the emotional and physical atrocities they'd experienced. And this is an amazing testament to Patrick Stewart's character, because not only is it an act of redemption, but it's an act of compassion. Because abusers are not born, they're made. They're made through pain. They're made through their own trauma that they can't process properly. And then when the pressure builds, it shoots out in the wrong direction in a negative way, in abuse, in control and manipulation, financial, economic, sexual, physical abuse, any number of ways, but it comes out in a negative way. And realizing this is the key to all of the domestic violence incidences that are prevalent in society today. I often talk about the fact that there are all these networks, there are all these support hotlines and shelters and resources for women to turn to, and yet the numbers, the statistics on domestic violence are worse than ever. Why is this? It's because we're treating the symptoms, we're not treating the cause. If a woman needs to call a domestic violence hotline or visit a shelter with a bag of clothes and her kids in tow, it's because she's already been abused. She's already a statistic. If we want to solve this problem, we need to reach the men. The men before they are damaged, when they are young men. We need to give them good examples of what it's like to be in a loving, committed relationship. We need to tell them that it's not okay to control, manipulate, or abuse your spouse. And we need to tell them that if they are hurt, if they are traumatized and they feel those sort of inclinations, the desire or the urge to act in that way, in that negative, abusive manner, that there are resources and we're here to help. That's what we need to do. This isn't a woman's problem. This is a man's problem. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat about the semantics of a man's problem, I will broaden that from man to man, woman to woman, woman to man. You know, it doesn't only go one way. It's from a position of power to a position of subordination. So what do we do about this? How do we lead by example? Obviously, Sir Patrick Stewart has got it figured out. It's equal parts redemption and compassion, and taking a proactive stance on the causes, not the symptoms of domestic violence. That's how we're going to conquer this epidemic. That's how we're going to solve the domestic violence crisis. What do you think about that?